Welcome to the TWSN NHL show, where today we're going to be talking about the Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning as they defeated the Montreal Canadiens in 5 games, and a little bit of some postseason preview stuff. I've got my co-hosts Joe and Liam with me. I'm Daniel Ivan, and we're going to just get right into it. So I'm going to just get out the way now. I know the boys have been listening to me beforehand, just chirping it up a storm. I called the series. That's all I want to say. We had the receipts. Tampa takes them out in 5. It was hard for me because, I obviously liked Montreal as a team. I think the Cinderella story was fun to follow throughout the playoffs. Is like, I started off with Colorado. They got knocked. Then followed Vegas, and they get knocked. And I'm like, all right, well, now I have to buy into this hype, right? And
you know what it was, Dan? It was the Joe Camel curse.
The Joe Camel curse.
It was the Joe Camel curse. Every team I picked up in the playoffs lost. Every team. I picked a new team each round. They freaking lost. Panthers was round 1. Then it was what was round 2? Winnipeg. Then it was then it was the Avs. Then it was Vegas. And then it was Montreal.
Cursed everyone. How could you do such a thing?
Then shifting sports. I cursed Brazil and Neymar, and then I cursed England. I was rooting for Italy, obviously. Was Azzurri. We won it all today. But I picked England to win. I thought England was going to win. Tell me, the Joe Camel curse is in full effect right now.
Dude, I think I need to just give you money and make sure that the team I end up wanting to win will win, because you just bet the opposite side, I guess. So, just to go back into it, Tampa Bay goes back-to-back in the both Stanley Cup Finals now, which is for the first time since Pittsburgh did it in 16 and 17, And it's incredible to see that what this team has become. I mean, we talked about it a lot in the last show, that they are just one of the most complete rosters in the whole league, top to bottom. They just know how to build it right. And obviously, under the direction of Julien Brisebois, and then they had Steve Yzerman in there for a while, they just drafted and had some really incredible talent. And we saw, Kucherov, Point, Stammer, all the guys stepped up, and we just recognized throughout this series, like Joe's talked about a lot, that Vasilevsky really is just the best goalie in the entire NHL. It's not even close. No Montreal doubt. Throughout this series, they looked, at certain points, they looked lost because Tampa just took the reins all the time. But then in the games that they actually played and looked really good, you could just see that Tampa was just a million times better. And Vasilevsky, who was the Conn Smythe winner for a playoff MVP, well deserved.
Well, I believe that he's the first goalie ever to end series on a shutout. Each series, shutout the Panthers.
I was going to bring that up. I talked about that last time.
Yeah, you did. I beat you to the punch this time, though, Dan.
Yeah, you did. It's incredible to see that a goalie just has such a clutch finish. Like every single game-winning situation, that he just closes the door behind him and builds the brick wall.
You saw that he and Tampa didn't lose consecutive games at all in the playoffs. They didn't win. They didn't lose 2 games in a row once this playoffs.
That's insane.
They just had another gear when they needed it.
You know what team that was supposed to do it all this year couldn't do that? The Leafs. And they choked again.
Oh, you saw that picture of that guy in the Leafs jersey at the playoff game in Montreal, Game 3?
Yeah.
He had the mask on. It's like you paid $15,000 just to be an objective fan.
I didn't see that one. I just saw
it was like a caption I think someone put on that same post, where the guy, because Montreal tickets were insane, because they love.
I was looking at it, Dan. Yeah. I swear to God, I was looking at tickets to go to a Montreal playoff game. I was thinking about making a drive up there. I was like, it's $6,000 a pop. I'm like, I'm not.
No way, $6,000. They love it too much, and with limited capacity, that the diehards are gonna get it before you, and all the people in the streets.
Yeah, I was gonna say the streets looked way more fun anyway.
Yeah, climate, literally just winning the one game, they were going insane. But for Canadians, Montreal Canadiens fans and Canadian fans in general, it's been so long since they've been in a finals.
And then 93, right?
Well, that's the last time they won. But the last time they've been in the finals, we talked about it in the last show.
97?
No, it's been way sooner than that.
Was it against the Bruins? No.
To please hold while I should have had this from last time's notes, but I think it might have been 2000. I think it's it's way closer than that. Dude, it's slipping me. So 11 was the the Hawks and Bruins. 10 is
Vancouver.
Yeah, it is 11. It is 11 because the Vancouver Canucks. Why did I say the Chicago
No,
Bruins?
that was just the last time a Canadian team played.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what we were talking about. Not
okay. I thought you meant like the Canadians. Yeah, I thought we were talking about the team.
I should have been more specific, but yeah, the Canadians.
No,
last
that is
time they
confusing
won.
considering Canadian.
Yeah, I was talking about both. Canada as a whole country has it's been pretty down bad for the boys up north who started this whole thing. It's just the United States is superior.
Yeah, well, and Tampa just honestly really looked like the best team like throughout these whole playoffs. Specifically against Montreal, like they just looked huge on defense. They clogged the lanes. Montreal couldn't connect passes at their worst, and even when they could, it looked like they were scared of shadows. And Tampa was just so deep. I mean, they had 16 players score goals.
I will say for Montreal, shout out Suzuki, Nick Suzuki. He played very well this series. He played really well. I mean, not many people showed up for the Canadians, but he was definitely one of them. He can hold his head up high.
Yeah, for being such a young guy, I mean, it's only his third year in the league. He shows a lot of poise, and he's a really talented player. I mean, if you remember in the one game the Canadians did win, when I think the opening goal where Josh Anderson scored, Nick Suzuki had that amazing play where he just danced around the one Tampa defender and made that slick backhand pass to the slot where Josh Anderson just hammers it home. Like, for a guy that's only in like his third year in playing against such an amazing team that has won the cup, the guy looks super poised. And obviously those key young pieces, you know, they didn't step up as much as they did in the finals as they did in the other series, but there's a lot of hope for Montreal fans around Nick Suzuki, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and Cole Caulfield, along with other guys like Alexander Romanov. And the other, like the young guys, are definitely going to be great for steps in the right direction. And then you have Tyler Toffoli locked up. If you can get Philip Deneau locked up again, and then try and, you know, make some other offseason moves, acquire another like top center, like a legitimate elite center, and figure out that back end to try and support Carey Price, and they definitely could still be a threat. I don't know if Montreal is. I guess I'm going to skip ahead in terms of the bullet points here, but obviously Tampa, we've seen it. Do you guys think Tampa can make it back to the finals once again? I mean,
absolutely. I don't even think it's a question. They're my favorites to go to the finals next year.
Yeah, I think just on talent alone, they should be able to. I think it's gonna be interesting to see how the expansion draft rolls through them. They've got a couple key free agents this year. Coleman, Goodrow, and Savard are all unrestricted free agents, and they're gonna have to get under this cap.
Yeah, I mean, everyone always talked about them being $18 million over the cap, but once the playoffs hit, the cap doesn't matter. I mean, Kucherov got healthy at the right time. Kucherov was fair enough to shut everyone up after that post-game presser when he was plastered off the Bud Lights with the boys. He was telling Montreal they should have stopped celebrating and that everyone should shut up. I mean, he shut him up good. I mean, he was like one of the leading scorers in the postseason.
He's insane, man. He's just such a great player. Like, you can hate him as a person, and you can hate him as a Tampa Bay Lightning player. Can't hate him as a player though. He's just that guy. He's that guy, pal. He's that guy.
He's that guy, pal.
Yeah, and I think we've also officially witnessed the transition from Stamkos being that guy in Tampa to Kucherov now has it. And soon enough after that, it'll be Point. I mean,
I still think
they're
Point
primed to go for a while.
I think Cooch and Point are definitely like the co-pilots running the show here. Those guys are just absolutely insane. Both have earned their money's worth, and they're playing out of their minds on that team. And it's their championship to lose next year again, right? Just like it was this year. I mean,
how about Pickles' insane goal?
That was the craziest goal I think anyone's witnessed in like the past 10 years, and like during the Stanley Cup Finals.
We saw it, Dan. We saw him.
As Devils fans, we know that like
we were spoiled.
Coleman has been doing this somehow, some way. Man is diving and just poking it past goaltenders, and it's like this is a new specialty goal. Next thing you know,
I saw they put up like a whole series of videos of him doing that exact play over and over.
5 times.
I miss him, man.
Next thing you know, he's going to be like the next NHL move. First, it was like the Svechnikov or like the Michigan move where you like sweep it around the net. Now it's just going to be dive goals.
Yeah. Just call it the pickle.
Yeah, basically. And I guess now we have to transition over to Montreal. Do you guys think that they can go back to the finals?
Maybe. I don't know. I think they barely scraped by this regular season. I think a full year with this offensive identity, they might look a little bit different next year. But I think they definitely benefited from this playoff system. I mean, call it what it is. They had magic, but they definitely had a couple easy matchups on their way in.
I don't know, because I think the Cole Caulfield addition to them, I think he joined them around playoff time. He wasn't with the team the whole season, I don't believe.
No.
He had a couple of games, I think, towards the end of the regular season, but mostly all of his action came in the playoffs.
Yeah, so I think that helps them. They seem like a team that's good. They seem like they're a weird team where it seems like they're built for the playoffs, if that makes sense. They're not really built for the regular season. They're built for. They have a hot goalie who's a great goalie, but I mean you need a great goalie in the playoffs, and they have guys who can do it. But they're just not. They're a team I can see getting back to the finals, but I can't see them winning in the finals. If that makes sense.
I think they just got a tough route through the East, honestly.
Oh,
yeah.
You know what? You're right. I forgot that they're going to be in the East, and they'd have to go through.
They'd have to probably beat Tampa just to make it to the finals.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
I believe next season everything's going to go back to normal, or they're going to readjust the divisions again to put it back to the way it was. I don't think we're going to have another all-Canadian division with the COVID restrictions lifting and everything. So it's going to be tough because the Atlantic is going to get stacked again. Obviously, Tampa's going to run that show, but then all the Canadian teams in between, and same thing for the Metropolitan Division. Like that's going to get stacked again for a lot of other teams, which we're going to talk to later. But I don't know if the Canadians are definitely going to make the finals, let alone it's going to be a tough ride to get into the playoffs. I mean, they have an interesting roster. They're like a tweener team. They kind of remind me of like the Minnesota Wild of old, where it was like their roster kind of reminds me of like a team that's definitely capable of making the playoffs, but I don't think they're capable of making noise unless they really make some key additions or some huge shakeups, because they're going to definitely have to do a bit of mix and matching in terms of how they're going to like restructure this team. Like they have great assets, but it's all about like changing the identity of this team. I think obviously their grit and grind system got them through the playoffs, but again, like Joe mentioned, I don't think it's going to get them through the rigors of the regular season, especially if we're going to go back to an 82 game format. Like you're going to have to relieve the load off of Carey Price, get another solid backup goaltender, because Lord knows Jake Allen wasn't it. And so they're going to have to like retool just a little bit, because this was their window, which was right during the playoffs. It sucks because sometimes you always talk about teams and their windows. Tampa has their window for, looks like for the foreseeable future until those contracts run out or the injuries really get to Stamkos like they have been, or some of the other guys, or the cap will finally get to him. But as of right now, it's Tampa's to lose and Montreal's to try and get back to. But let's take a look back into the playoffs and which teams that obviously got bounced. Who do you think could have an even better chance next year?
Carolina, for sure. Easy one off the top of my head.
All right, so you got Carolina. Joe, what you got?
Vegas, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
The Avs. I think they're right there. And then from the East, Boston or the Islanders?
Yeah, both are definitely going to have to do some work. I mean, Carolina, they've, for the most recent, in the past couple of years, have really shown that like they've got great talent throughout. That the fact that they're willing to like start having talks that Dougie Hamilton, which we're going to talk about like major offseason pieces, is already allowed to talk to other teams, and they are not really scared of what their future holds for that, because their defense is just so sound, along with how deep their team is in general. It's incredible. They definitely, led by Rod Brendamore, he was on that 2006 Stanley Cup team. Guy's also like a legend in the locker room. He's a huge players coach. The guy's built different. Like, have you seen the like muscle in this guy? The guy's literally a tank. He still works out as if he was like playing in the league. I bet you if like someone gets injured, like last like line of resort, he's probably gonna have to suit up the gear for the team and go out for the boys. But they have like really good young guys. They got Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, and they've got some other, like their defense is really good. Like you got Jacob Slavin and their goaltenders. Like obviously, Nedeljkovic, that guy came out of nowhere from the AHL because he was really good for them and stepped up and became like a really huge starter. And they have great all-around tools. And like all of us mentioned, Vegas always seems to have an in the Sin City with their ins, and obviously having links to just every valuable guy. Like they just seem to like want to buy in on everything. And if they just literally figure out scoring during the postseason, it's pretty much wraps for the league.
I'm out on I'm putting it out there right now. I'm out on Vegas. I think they have the choke gene in their team. I don't think they can get it done.
It's only been 3 or 4 years, bud. You're already labeling them the choke gene. It's a little too early, in my opinion.
I'm gonna do it.
I think Vegas. I've been hearing talks about Lanner making his way over to the Kraken. I think you save a couple million there, and you add some offense. You retool that power play a little bit. Man, they're still scary.
They're still an incredibly scary team. They still got assets. And Aiden over here in the chat talk about the Bruins window is closed. It's kind of tough. I mean, you still have the perfection line of Marchand, Bergeron, and Pasternak. It's just that how are they going to be able to keep up with that depth? Because I know this year they definitely had a real chance when they got Taylor Hall for like 10 cents on the dollar. Like, he was an absolute amazing acquisition for that team at the time that happened at the trade deadline. He fit in so well with David Krejci, who I don't even know if they're going to keep because he's a $6 million man in his 30s. Like, he's probably going to be bouncing around teams because he's a free agent this season. And they don't have, they obviously have to pay their big guys. And Rask is still there, and he's aging, and he's still a really good goaltender. But Boston's really going to have to take some time and retool this team. Like, they're going to have to take their chances and really figure out if they really want to go all in again. And I mean, really go all in, like throw in the kitchen sink and everything to try and get assets around it. Obviously, first would be trying to sign Taylor Hall to a good deal because he's expressed some interest in staying there. But again, he is a free agent, so he's going to listen to whatever he wants, and he's intent on winning now. And you got some weird guys like Charlie Coyle who, like, they're all right, but come playoffs, like, they really need that depth scoring, and you've got to have that. Like, outside of the top line, like, you really need it. Like, all the acquisitions they made this year, I think, like from Mike Riley, from the guy from either the Canadiens or the Senators, like a depth defenseman, but analytically he was playing really good shutdown. And then Taylor Hall, I mean, guy won an MVP. Guy at the top of his game looks amazing.
I think the Isles are probably the best team out of the Metro anyway for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have a good roster to work around. I mean, Barry Trotz has shown that, like, they're good. They're built for the rigors of it. I mean, they took Tampa to 7 games. I mean, that team's got it all. They've got a good structure. The Islanders were the upgraded versions of the Canadiens anyway. Like, they had, like, a better offensive weapon. It's not the best, but
Pokemon evolution.
Yeah, they got Barzal.
Canadians are the base, and then the Islanders
the starter was Montreal, and then like the max version is the Islanders. But yeah, that kid Matt Barzal, he showed out during these playoffs, and he's turned electric. And I think that he's put the league on notice that he's definitely going to be a guy that people are going to want to play with. And they made some good acquisitions. They just have to figure out who they're keeping and maybe try and get some more weapons around Barzal. And
I am going to say, I think the tri-state area Metro is in good hands for years to come. The Rangers are really close, in my opinion, to being a very, very good team. Islanders, they're going to be on for a minute. The Flyers, I don't really know what's going on with them, to be honest with you. I can't tell if they're really on the upswing or they're going to kind of teeter back down. The Devils, I mean, I don't know.
The Devils are like a couple moves away.
New owners are needed.
I think it's an even year next year, so the Flyers should be good. That's how that works, right?
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
They're like the Giants of San Francisco Giants.
So then to go back, like you were talking about the Avalanche. Yeah, I mean, the Avalanche, that team was built. They just ran into Vegas, and Vegas got hot at the right time again. And Colorado, we know, Grubauer's legit. You got Nathan McKinnon. He's an MVP caliber candidate. And then any team that's got Nathan McKinnon on it could surefire be a playoff team. That guy's insane. Then you got awesome weapons with Cale Makar, who literally was in the competition for the Norris Trophy like 2-3 years into his career. Guys like Mikko Rantanen, Gabriel Landeskog, and their depth is also really good. And that's what we've seen, like the recurring trend is just depth gets you far in the playoffs. And the other factors come along with it, whether you have the hot goalie or you have the timely scoring. That's the 3 parts to it. But it all starts with the depth, because if you're not deep enough, you're going to get burned. And so to piggyback off of that a little bit, I mean, we obviously know that the teams are going to be interesting next year. Who do you guys think is going to surprise next year, getting back to the normal format and trying to get the divisions back in order? Who do we think could really surprise teams again?
Florida, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say Florida really made some noise. I mean, they ran into Tampa first. Obviously, Tampa was the lower seed, but that's just the way the division was. But obviously that's not going to happen again. Tampa's not going to be a lower seed by any means. With the Panthers, if they get a favorable matchup in the first round and keep it up, like they're always that dark horse team. It's like their mantra where they just always seem to like almost be there, and then they showed out like they got bounced, but man, were they exhilarating.
The Kraken.
Ooh, you really do. You think
they get the
nice
draft? See if they can make it happen. If
they're getting the same rules as Vegas too. Yeah,
exactly. You never know.
I mean, it's interesting because the Kraken draft is actually only 10 days away, July 21st, and we've already seen kind of a bit of an impact of like teams are going to have to start making some trades soon if they're going to figure out how to navigate around this. Like we saw Victor Arvidsson get moved from Predators to LA for like pennies, like a second round pick this year and a third round pick next year. Like he's a great top 6 guy. LA has obviously been rebuilding since those 2 cups in 12 and 14, and I think other teams are definitely going to follow in the footsteps. I mean, we saw what happened with Vegas. I mean, the Panthers are dumb and traded away Riley Smith, and they take Jonathan Marchessault, and both of them become complete studs. Then they get Eric Howla and Alex Tuck from Minnesota, and Howla has been. He was good in the time in Vegas, and Alex Tuck is like a key guy for them as a power forward. And then the Ducks trading like Shea Theodore to them, and he's like their best defenseman. Like there could be a lot of avenues for the Kraken. Obviously, their lines are open, and there's going to be some real interesting noise in free agency too, since they're going to be fresh up. They're going to have money to spend, so if someone's willing to take on that challenge, they could do it too. So. It's going to be interesting to see what Seattle can do.
Yeah, I wonder who's going to send them a big-time goalie.
Yeah, because there's a lot of good goaltending options, like in a way, because a lot of teams are going to offload older goaltenders on big contracts that could possibly bounce back. I mean, it's going to be weird to see who's like available, but yeah, guys like Leonard have been mentioned. Some weird Vegas fans are like, all right, let's trade them Fleury as if he wasn't like their MVP. Then you've got like Jonathan Quick off of the Kings, Braden Holtby off the Canucks. Like, there's going to be a lot of available goalies and other good players, like older defensemen too. Like, if the Sharks are really crazy since I know there was a recent report that like the Sharks are willing to trade like anyone because they're like ready to start kind of blowing it up. Maybe like a guy like Burns or Carlson. Now that's just me being a little hot takey. You could take in. I mean, people always talk about on the Devils PK Subban being exposed because he's got a high contract. It's going to be interesting to see.
I heard Subban's out.
See that.
You guys see that rumor that Subban is signing a contract with ESPN?
I mean, the guy's made for TV.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see if Subban's still around.
He's gonna retire?
No, I don't think. No, he's not gonna retire. It's just
maybe
like how some
NBA
it's just like how some NBA players like they pop up on TNT when they're not like on during the season. They pop on like how Draymond Green has been doing it in the playoffs because he got bounced. I think like he's gonna have a good job after his his time in the NHL is over. Like the guy's not. Like PK Subban is like in his mid-30s. Like he still has some decent years in him before he like really calls it quits. Like the guy is 32 years old.
I don't want him exposed. I really think. I mean, look, he isn't what he used to be, but I do think he's good for the Devils' back line right now. The Devils have so much money that they don't use. What's the purpose of just not having any big contracts? Like I understand the purpose of having cap flexibility. I understand that, but like, come on. They're not paying anyone that much money. They can have a PK Subban contract, unless they want to go out and get Dougie Hamilton.
That's what we're going to talk about next, man. I mean, we're talking about those big free agents and those big rumors coming around. I mean, Dougie Hamilton. I think Elliot Friedman, one of the main analysts for the NHL, talked about how I think almost all 32 teams, even the Kraken, have like inquired about Dougie Hamilton already. Like, this guy is literally the best. He's going to be the best guy available in free agency. He's an amazing defenseman. Like we've seen what the guy can do. Puts up like 50, 60 points as a defenseman every year. And he's like, wherever he goes, like he's elite. He's going to upgrade any defense that anyone has.
Why would he come to New Jersey, man?
I mean, that'd be great. I mean,
people
forget that there's some marketability to it. Like, I don't want to make this all Devils thing, but I mean, you get the perks of New York without actually living in New York City. You don't deal with their taxes. You got better homes here. You got access to the shore. You get whatever you want here in New Jersey. And I mean, he's going to get paid whatever he wants wherever he goes. It's just how quick does he want to.
Depends if he wants to win now too.
He's going to go to a playoff
win
team.
Now, that really cuts what,
It's
maybe
also
like
going to be tough
20
because if you
teams out.
want, yeah, it's tough because it's like if you want a playoff team, I mean, a lot of them are strapped to the cap. I mean, we know that now. It's just who's going to make some crazy moves to be like, I want this guy right now. Like,
Yeah, good point.
then obviously Taylor Hall's available. I mean, we saw that with Fiasco last year that he's just like, I'm going to go to Buffalo. We're going to make this happen. And then Buffalo just crashing down. And now even Jack Eichel wants out. And that's going to be even crazier to see, like, during this offseason too, like where Jack Eichel gets traded to. I mean, they've officially, like, him and the team are just on disconnect. They're definitely not going to be wanting in with each other anymore, and he's going to try and get moved. And like LA's been in the mentions, the Rangers have been in the mentions, and heck, Vegas is always in on big guys. And all three teams can definitely come up with a compelling package. But in my opinion, I don't know. Like each has their downfalls. Like Vegas, I hope they don't give too much so that they kind of like just to try and get an elite guy and Jack Eichel lose a lot of their depth. The Rangers, they have a lot of good young prospects, and obviously they want to fill a center hole because they don't know what they're going to do with Mika Zibanejad, and behind Zibanejad, they have like no one else at center. And for LA, with the way they've been building the past couple of years, like they obviously have their veterans, and they've been drafting really well. They have one of the best prospect pools in the league. Like, why are you have a lot of expendability, but why are you going to try and throw a lot at the Sabres to get Jack Eichel when you guys aren't like 100% ready to be even close to the playoffs yet? So
Well, he's young. He is young.
It's coming off a neck injury.
He's young enough where I feel like you could make a move for him and be like, because I guess the theory would be for Los Angeles would be we do have a lot of young talent, but Jack Eichel's a proven talent. We don't know if these young talents are going to be those guys who are going to be able to get it done.
Especially
are those guys going to put up Jack Eichel numbers, Jack Eichel talent, Jack Eichel's impact?
Well, honestly, I honestly think the biggest thing that's going to impact this Eichel trade is I really don't think it's going to be a bidding war. I really don't. Buffalo has no leverage. He doesn't want to be there. He's coming off a neck surgery. He wants to do an additional surgery after that.
Because of all that stuff that like was going on, that whole fiasco.
Yeah, and he signed a 5-year deal, and like 2 years in says, "No, I'm good." I don't know. I think Montreal's going to have to either keep some salary or sweeten the pot a little bit.
You mean the Sabres, buddy? I get what you mean.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I don't think they're going to keep any salary. I mean, with these teams, they're going to try and get him. They're going to obviously have the room. Like the Rangers have some room, and LA has plenty of room. Vegas, they somehow find a way for everything. I mean, they found a way to trade some guys and then got Alex Pietrangelo in free agency. So, yeah, but like Joe was saying, I definitely think that's a good rationale because I think LA still wants to try and squeak the good years out of Anze Kopitar and Drew Doughty for whatever they have left in the tank. Kopitar's still good, but Doughty has been it's not been good for the man ever since like those like maybe I think 2017 or 2017 I think was his last good year, and then he dropped off like insanely. So yeah, that's going to be incredibly interesting to see what happens with a lot of these guys. And then I know when I posted in my article, there's been a lot of Seth Jones rumors because he wants out of Columbus, and then that Philly seems to be like a huge team that's in on him.
Yeah, and they're shopping Voracek, I think.
Yeah, Friedman in his 31 Thoughts was talking about how Voracek and the team both like collectively decided that they might be time to move on for each other. So there's going to be a lot of guys that you're going to see player moving from. Heck, even the Blackhawks have talked about moving Duncan Keith to the Oilers, and they're just trying to figure out the exact deal going on. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of this offseason.
Yeah, with COVID and the cap too, I'm interested to see what happens with all that. How are teams going to manipulate because cap's going to be lower because of COVID?
It's still static for the next couple of years, as opposed to how like during COVID is when it capped out at $81.5 million, and then COVID happened, and then they decided for the next 3 or 4 years, I believe, it's just going to be flat. Which for teams like Tampa, that window is going to run out soon. None of their major guys are coming up, but like you mentioned, Barclay Goodrow, Blake Coleman, and some of their depth pieces are going to be available as free agents. So wherever they decide to go, Tampa's not going to be exactly in the best money position. They're going to obviously have to try and trade guys who they've been trying to trade forever, like Tyler Johnson, maybe Alex Killorn, guys like Yanni Gourde. Like now that they've won back-to-back, I think they don't really have any ties to anyone outside of their big five, and Kucherov, Point, Stammer, Hedman, and Vasilevsky. They don't got to worry about anyone else as long as they keep them together and still have some favorable depth. They can find a way to make it work.
Dan, speaking on that, I think depth is why, going back to the playoffs a little bit, why Toronto hasn't done so well. I think they're very top heavy.
They are.
They paid a lot of money. I think it stems back to when they paid Matthew his big deal. I mean, he's worth the money. The guy's been in the Maurice Richard race is one of the top goal scorers in the league, and he deserved his payday. But then when Marner wanted the similar money, and then the whole Nylander fiasco before that, when he just stalled out for like the longest time until like the beginning of the season to get his deal. Now his deal has panned out better. He's still a really good guy, and he's worth his like $8 million deal. And then them going out and getting John Tavares for all that money, they're strapped. I don't know what they're going to do. Obviously,
you can't rely on 2 lines in the playoffs. You can't. You need to be 3 deep at least. 4 deep is. I mean, look how good the Islanders and Tampa Bay are. There are four lines that are going to break you down and just do extremely well throughout the game. Each of those teams' 4 lines are probably better than that line across from them.
I also think Toronto deserves a little bit. I think if Tavares doesn't get hurt as bad as he does in Game 1, I think that's a little bit of a different series. They probably survive Montreal with him on the ice, honestly.
And that was such a tough injury too. Just the way that it happened, like that was an accidental injury. But I agree. I think that took all the momentum out of the team. But I think this upcoming season is the last season of them having that collective group, whatever depth pieces they're going to try. Because obviously I've heard them be interested in on Taylor Hall. They're going to try and get some additional scoring depth because they need that, and maybe some anchoring on the back end. But I think this is the last year you really try and keep all the young guys together, and even Tavares. And after that, I think it's time to really pull the trigger and blow it up. It's great to have a really young core of such elite talent, but if you're going to have to cater to all of them and have them soak up 33% of your cap, there's no wiggle room to do nothing. So they've got to really figure it out. And I think I think Frederik Andersen was linked to going into free agency, their main goaltender. So that's another question mark for them, especially with little cap space room that they have. They might have to make a move. They might have to get rid of Mitch Marner or Nylander or Tavares.
I think there's going to be a lot of depth moving around this offseason. I think a team that I look at significantly to maybe make some moves with the roster is the Capitals. I think they looked old and slow this postseason. I think part of the way they can kind of lighten that load and maybe get Ovechkin one more cup is shed some of these aging depth pieces. And those are guys with playoff experience that I could easily see going to Toronto.
Yeah, exactly. There's going to be a lot of key guys. For the Capitals, I think relations between them and Evgeny Kuznetsov, their 2C, have been done. All the off ice situations with them, and the fact that he's just not been as elite as he was on that cup run. Ever since then, he's just been kind of stagnant. I mean, a lot of first round exits for the Caps for them too ever since that. And Kuznetsov has been one of the problems because he just hasn't showed up. And then you've got, like you said, other depth pieces going around the league, like Thomas Tatar. I mean, he was one of the great contributors for them throughout the entire season for the Canadiens, and there were reported instances of some type of injury, and then I think he just got health bombed through the playoffs, and he never came. And I don't know if they're going to sign him again. And he's 31 years old, but he's a really good top 6 scoring forward. He's great 5-on-5. He's good at play driving, and he's a good complementary winger. I think a lot of teams that are looking to get over that hump are definitely going to be trying to look for him. You've got obviously guys like Blake Coleman and to add as the comparable depth, and there's going to be plenty of good guys. I'm going to try and pull up Cap Friendly right now to just get a good list of who the available free agents are going to be coming this offseason, because there's going to be a lot to choose from. So Ovechkin is number 1, but obviously he said himself that he's going to stay with the Capitals or retire in Russia. And it's most likely that he's just going to stay in Washington and get a huge payday, unless he's going to take a pay cut to try and get them to win.
He has to.
Getzlaf, apparently, he's got a no-move clause. He's old. He's probably going to retire there, so probably a shorter-term deal. Obviously, we stated Taylor Hall. I said David Krejci. He's older. Rask is actually a free agent as well. You've got Patrick Laine, who's a restricted free agent, so we're going to find it interesting to see if he signs a deal there in Columbus, or if Columbus finds a way to trade him as well, and maybe they blow it up.
Player, man. Laine is an interesting player. I personally think he's a great player, but I could see why people wouldn't want to spend a lot of money on him.
He's a one-dimensional guy who he's had some really down years recently and has to step up his game and rehaul it entirely. I mean, we know he's scored 40, 50 goals before. Like, he has it all there, but
I'm a huge fan of Laine. He's one of my favorite players, but like I understand why teams would be very hesitant to spend a lot of money on him.
He's a reclamation project right now, and I mean, for Columbus, who's like trying to revamp their identity, maybe even just blow it all up and rebuild, I think that maybe they're not exactly the team to look for, and they want a top tier center. So it's probably, he might get moved. He's probably going to get traded for his rights and signed somewhere else to go down the line. Stepan, he's a bit older. Stastny's older. Brandon Saad, he was a good acquisition that Colorado traded for from Chicago again to get some good scoring depth, and let alone we'll see if he stays there, because it'd be a nice fit like he did. Then you've got Dougie Hamilton that we've talked about. Obviously, Gabriel Landeskog, he's probably going to stay in Colorado, but he's like a huge guy that he's still like, he's like 28, so he's still at like the close end of his prime. He's a great power forward. We know how he's played with guys with top end talent like McKinnon and Landeskog, and he can hold his own, and he can score, and he's a great guy in the power play, being a net front presence. And I didn't get to mention this, but you guys heard the rumors about Tarasenko wanting out of St. Louis, that he asked for the trade offers to get out?
I think that's good for both sides.
Yeah, they've mutually come to an agreement. In Friedman's thing they were talking about, they're both trying to get a deal that works best for both sides real soon. Because I think, obviously he's been injury riddled for the past 2 years, but he also wants a chance at winning again. I don't know where that's going to be, who's going to take on Tarasenko, but when he's really healthy, we've seen that he was like one of the top wingers in the league, like top 10 wingers in the league, and a big guy that a lot of people know. So it's going to be interesting to see that. And I mentioned Tatar, Frederik Andersen, the goaltender, Pecorines, he's old, but he's probably going to sign like a one and done. Palmieri could be useful somewhere. And yeah, there's just a lot of interesting guys available this free agent class. It's not super top heavy like in years past, but there's definitely going to be a lot for teams to build off of if they really want to get better this postseason.
Hot take on Palmieri. He's staying in the Metro and he's staying in the tri-state area.
Yeah, he's been known to, back when the Devils traded him out, he had a modified no trade clause, and I know he stated he didn't want to go to Canada, so he's probably going to try and stay here. He likes the area. He might probably I know he expressed his intentions to probably stay with the Islanders, as opposed to Zajac, who said he wasn't sure yet. He's going to weigh his options, but Palmieri, I think, will probably end up staying. They're going to find a way to make some wiggle room around it.
Winnipeg.
You think he's going home?
I can see it. I think there's 2 places he'll go. He's either 3 places. He's either staying with the Islanders because of Lou. He's either going back to the Devils or he's going to Winnipeg. Can't see him anywhere else.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, Winnipeg, he goes home. He goes and plays like 1 out year playing for his hometown. He either goes back to New Jersey and just retires. And yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
He's got his family's here in New Jersey too. I know they want to stay in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. So I remember specifically because of his retirement or his 1000th game night, they were kind of talking about that. So yeah. I can't really see him anywhere else. I can't see him going to like a St. Louis or a Vegas on a deal.
Yeah, definitely. And just to go into this, like I said, this offseason is definitely going to be an interesting one to watch because of all the free agents, a lot of guys who want to get moved, and then this draft, which, it's definitely got a lot of talent, and it's probably going to be misnomered for a while because of the fact that, because of COVID, not a lot of these guys got scouted properly. So you're going to see a lot of guys slide. A lot of guys that are in the top probably slide a little farther because some people didn't do their homework. And we have some really quality talent. And especially with, us, a couple of us as Devils fans, and then the Rangers, they might be able to scoop someone up in the later part of the first round. Like, there's a lot to go around. There's a lot of defensemen. As opposed to last year, there was a lot of good centers and a lot of quality forwards. Like, there's a lot of good defensemen. Owen Power at the top. A lot of guys from University of Michigan coming out in this draft class. Owen Power, Kent Johnson. I think Luke Hughes is coming out of Michigan. Like, there's a lot of great guys coming out here. I made a draft piece talking about predicting who's going where. Or it was in the off-season review. I said which teams were more favorable to select which guys. And I think Buffalo, it would be dumb if they don't take Power, but they've been linked to getting linked to having a lot of interviews with the teammate of Alexander Holtz, so William Eklund, the right winger who showed out real big in the SHL this year for I think it's for Frölunda. I think that's the team that either for Frölunda or Djurgården, whichever team that I think Holtz played for. So he's a top guy in the draft, but Buffalo's been linked to him. So that's going to be a real stun if they take him first overall and not take Owen Power, because he's the most complete player, top 2 defenseman in the draft, and a top 2 projected defenseman. Got guys like Luke Hughes who could go to the Devils, Brant Clark, who's linked to another guy in the Devils because of his brother playing there, but Brant is a beefier guy. He played in Slovakia this year and showed he can play amongst men. Matthew Bernays is a really skilled center. Got guys like later that could slide in the draft, like Cole Sillinger, who I think is a really good offensive product. He's going to obviously take some years to develop, but he's cool. Mason McTavish. So there's a lot going on, and I think this is an offseason to really define what direction you want your team to be going to. Obviously, every offseason's like that, but I think this one's a really key one in the past couple of years that it's been because of the way the league has been. A lot of the dynasties falling apart in Chicago, LA, Pittsburgh slowing down, Boston slowing down, and then you've got
Capitals
other teams.
I mean, they're not really a dynasty, but Capitals are as well.
Yeah, the Capitals,
Yeah.
like a lot of these teams that have been the staple of the 2010s are in the 2000, like the late 2000s, are starting to come apart, and we're seeing a lot of that. Toronto has been trying to make noise, and we've seen that they're incredible young talent. Carolina, the Islanders, a lot of these teams taking advantage of the fact that a lot of these other teams are getting older, and with an offseason like this, you pick up a couple guys, make some trades, and get a really good draft selection, you're going to be setting the stage for years to come where it's going on.
Absolutely, man. I mean,
No
that's
doubt.
what I think is great about this offseason. Like just like you said, the teams are falling off. Are they going to go in for one last push, or are they just going to say we got to blow it up? Because this Kraken thing, I mean, we touched on it earlier, but that's going to be huge for teams. Teams like Pittsburgh, teams like the Capitals, teams like Toronto, not really Toronto, but Pacific and Boston. They're 3 older teams that still kind of, there's potential there. You could see them having one last run, one last hurrah. But who are the Kraken going to take from them? How do they protect? How do they set up? What's their moves for this offseason? I think that's going to be the most interesting storyline this offseason.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like the expansion draft and the draft itself are going to be the main components of how this year it goes out, because we don't know who's going to get taken. Obviously, teams have, I think, like 6 more days to submit their final list until rosters get locked, which I believe is on the 17th. It's when rosters get frozen, so no one can make trades until the actual expansion draft itself. And then after that, freeze until I believe frozen until free agency, and then and then I forget when free agency is.
Isn't it the 28th or something?
It's going to be really short after the expansion draft, I think. Yeah, the 2021 off-season schedule. So the expansion draft is on the 21st. The moratorium on trade and waiver freeze is lifted at 12 p.m. the day after. So so the roster freeze will be lifted the next day. The draft itself is going to be on the 23rd. And then the 28th is going to be when free agency opens at 11 a.m. on the 28th. So yeah, the end of this month is going to be really, really jam-packed. And then after this season, we're going to hope that everything goes back to normal and that our schedule runs back. And then we're going to be used to having like the draft in the middle of June and then the July 1st being free agency. And it's going to be an incredible season. I'm excited to see. Even during this COVID-confused year where we saw fans start to come back into the arenas, that there was a lot of life. I mean, we saw it in these playoffs that what fans really brought back into the arenas. We saw it in Tampa. They went absolutely crazy. The very limited capacity in Montreal was electric. Vegas had some amazing fans. You know, Boston's always going to have their crazy fans. And that's what we're going to hope to see next season with teams being back in their barns. And it's going to be an exciting season, guys. And I think that's going to start to wrap it up here. I appreciate you guys taking the time. And I guess I got to congratulate Tampa on the fact that it's Tampa Bay again. I mean, the Buccaneers won, and then they go back to back. I mean, Tampa's the place to be, I guess, right now. And everyone's getting drunk. They're sharing trophies. You got Young Gravy of all people drinking out of the cup. Like everyone's going crazy. The Vince Lombardi trophy. Like so the damn team is gonna get to touch the Lombardi trophy, and then the Bucks are some guys are touching the cup. Like that city's is live right now.
Tampa's the place to be.
Tampa's the place to be right now. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks to everyone who commented, who took the time to watch us. We really appreciate it. And we hope to be back next season to talk about some more hockey. Thanks again to Joe. Thanks again to Liam. And this is me, Daniel Ivan, signing off.